I think you can go ahead, Tamara. We're about holding steady at 34 attendees right now.
Thank you, Tara. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Tamara Trojanowska. I'm the director of the Center for Drama, Theatre and Performance Studies. And it is my great pleasure to welcome you this evening on behalf of the Center of Drama, Theatre, Performance Studies, and our co-host at the Department of Italian Studies, to our center's new alumni speaker series, one of 4 new series introduced at the center in the last 4 years. Of course, this one is a very special one because it allows us to celebrate the distinguished scholars and artists that the center has produced in the past decades, who have then gone on to shape Canadian theater and performance studies at major universities in Canada and also around the world. I am thrilled to introduce to you tonight Rosalind Kerr, Professor Emerita, University of Alberta, where she taught from 1997 to 2012. Also fellow in the Center for Reformation and Renaissance Studies, and Gaudieu visiting professor at U of T, whose book, Kerr's book, we will launch today as the initiation of this new speaker series. Professor Kerr has been an important voice in queer and gender Canadian and Italian theatre studies in Canada, and a game changer in promoting social relevance of these fields to the way we live and do scholarship and how the two intertwine. Her contributions to these fields include her book, The Rise of the Diva on the 16th Century Commedia dell'arte stage, published by our own University of Toronto Press in 2015. And of course, her editorial, very important editorial projects, Queer Theatre in Canada, Lesbian Plays, Coming of Age in Canada, and Staging Alternative Albertas, as well as numerous articles on actresses and their contribution to the shaping of the early modern European stage. Her most recent article is Bowing Their Greatness, Transnational Effects of the Italian Divas on the Shakespearean Stage. But indeed, the latest book, the latest publication, is the very one that we are celebrating tonight, the 2020 translation of The Fake Husband. This evening's presentations will make you all very aware of the comic brilliance of the Commedia dell'arte this text highlights. Let me also add that Professor Kerr's distinguished scholarly and pedagogical achievements have been greatly, have benefited greatly from, but also incorporated her many creative endeavors as a dramaturg, director, actor, and translator. So my delight in introducing Professor Kerr to you tonight springs not only from the prominence of her scholarly and pedagogical achievements, but also feeds on our shared history in the center that goes back quite a few years, well, decades as a matter of fact, Roz. One of the formative experiences that Roz and I shared was, of course, TAing. And we both were lucky to land this job in the introductory course at York University's theater department, roughly 30 years ago, where we were not only making a living, because at that time there were no guaranteed funding packages for PhD students, but where we also became friends and at the same time were apprentices in the fine art of university teaching, as there was little that was offered in terms of such training at the time. It is simply wonderful to be able to welcome Roz back to the center with her new book, and to have her back at the University of Toronto, and to be able to host her in this time around in this virtual space, but hopefully soon enough in our physical spaces with the wonderful text that she had brought to the English audience, also in a beautifully approachable and available English translation. So welcome, please join me everyone. This would be silent clapping, but still I hope that we will all hear it. Please join me in welcoming Professor Rosalind Kerr to the Center of Drama, Theatre and Performance Studies, launching her new publication. Now, please stop clapping and just pass. I will pass the microphone to a wonderful colleague who is the chair of the Italian department, or Department of Italian Studies, Professor Nicola Terpstra.
Thanks very much, Tamara. And thank you all for joining us. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to this event, which is both the alumni lecture and also a Goggio lecture, presented by the Emilio Goggio Visiting Professor in Italian Studies, Rosalind Kerr. And Tamara's already given you some of the personal history, her personal history with Rosalind. Let me fill you in on some of the history around the Goggio chair. Emilio Goggio was born in Piemonte, came to North America at age 14. Took his BA at Harvard, his MA at Toronto, and then his PhD at Harvard in 1917. He taught at Berkeley and University of Washington before returning to Toronto as professor and eventually as chair of the department of what was then Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese. And he retired in 1956, moved to California, as one will. And then he was after he passed away, his family very generously created a chair in his name, the Goggio Endowment, from about the 1990s. And this has been a truly amazing resource for the Italian Studies Department, because the Goggio Endowment has allowed us to bring in visiting professors like Rosalind Kerr. It has allowed us to mount conferences, offer lectures, subsidize the publication of books. So it's really been an absolutely vital resource to the Italian Studies Department, and really beyond that to the university, and I think to the city. Previous Goggio visiting professors have included Umberto Eco, the semiotician, Pier Giorgio Di Cicco, the poet, and the cinema scholar Angela Dalle Vacche. We were very happy to be able to recruit Rosalind to join this very distinguished group and to add her own luster to that long list. Among the responsibilities of the Goggio lecturer is offering a graduate course in the department, and so she is currently offering a course in commedia dell'arte. So this ties in very directly. Tonight's event ties in very directly with that. And then there's also public lectures, and Rosalind's public lectures as a Goggio visiting professor will be on the 14th of January and the 11th of February, and we'll be having more details about that coming up. But I'd like to welcome you then on behalf of the Italian Studies Department and the entire Italian Studies community. And I will now pass it on to one of our distinguished professors in Italian Studies, Domenico Pietropalo, who will tell us more about this evening's event.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. It gives me great pleasure to be here and to help launch The Fake Husband. Since Professor Kerr herself will talk about the play, I shall try to provide some background material for its interpretation, the coordinates, if you will, deriving them largely from her own scholarly work on the early commedia dell'arte. The Fake Husband is a fully scripted play based on an earlier, very brief scenario, a 3-page scenario, originally meant to be transformed into a performance text directly on stage without a script in the typical manner of the early commedia dell'arte by improvising actors. In my view, the significance of The Fake Husband is due chiefly to 2 factors. The first is of a technical nature and concerns the concept of dramatic form. The published text of the play may well be a transcription, duly edited for readability and literariness, of a real improvisation, in which case the script may be regarded as a very rare point of access to the dynamics of the improvisatory process itself, which is something that is very difficult to study without such texts. The second factor is of a thematic nature. It concerns the dialogue and the scenic action developed in the script, since the play features instances of audacious gender flipping. Gender reversals occur in the imagined privacy of the bedroom, as well as in public view, in scenes that may have been easily played to foreground the idea that gender is largely a matter of imposed perception, which can be transgressed on stage as well as in society. Many scenarios in the repertoire of the commedia dell'arte concern gender transgressions in scenes of farcical salaciousness, scenes in which, from around 1560, the roles of female characters and the roles of cross-dressed male characters were generally performed by women. The introduction of female performers on the commercial stage was one of the most revolutionary innovations of the commedia dell'arte. It was clear to all from the beginning that women, rather than boys in women's clothes, added a high degree of market appeal to a play by suggesting that it had erotic potential even when there was no erotic content. At first, this practice amounted to no more than a vulgar exploitation of female performers by the male members of the company for a largely male audience. But the situation began to change very quickly when the key roles were played by such talented actresses as Isabella Andreini, Vittoria Piissimi, and Silvia Roncagli. Ros has made a contribution of considerable significance to our understanding of that change. In her book, The Rise of the Diva, she traced the professionalization of the female performer in the commedia dell'arte, from the first appearance of women on the makeshift stages of mountebank street performers to their rise to stardom as the virtuose of the professional theater, and finally to their achievement of diva status. At the center of her perspective is the notion that the rise of the comic actress to professional dignity and popular fame is bound up with a development in the wake of counter-Reformation morality of a new erotic fetishism and an attendant brave questioning of the gender culture, debunked with the aid of laughter. The intersection of these ideas, expressed in the aggressive manner of broad comedy, led to the creation of forms of entertainment at once humoristic and artistic, in which any commedia starlet, let alone someone as talented as Isabella Andreini, the first diva of the European theater, could figure in the first place as a cultural commodity, responding to the demand for amusement with a promise of erotic titillation. In the second place, as a great stage artist with a significant contribution to make to the aesthetic refinement of indelicate and culturally defiant performative conventions. And in the third place, as a militant proto-feminist engaged in the vindication of women's entitlement to full dignity when they express ownership of their sexual identity in art, in the entertainment industry, and in society. Ros Kerr has dedicated much of her academic career to the exploration of this stage practice, an exploration that started many years ago in her PhD thesis at the Drama Center, the Center for Drama, Theatre and Performance Studies, as it is now known. Indeed, as her supervisor, I have vivid memories of conversations even before her thesis, in which she argued with passion that the notion of disguised identity, generally used to designate the cross-dressing of characters in comedy, was a misleading euphemism for a form of gender transgression by the assertive performance of transvestism on stage and in society. Framed in a single purview, Ros Kerr's scholarly work shows that for her, the early commedia dell'arte enabled great professional actresses to create a new style of transgressive performance, a style informed by a criterion of social verisimilitude in the representation of sexuality and in the comedic creation of female sexual identities. It was a style designed to enable actresses to use audacious humor to reclaim and display ownership of their bodies and their gender as women, on stage and in real life. On that note, I conclude my remarks. I shall now turn off my microphone and join the audience for the rest of the event. But before I do that, I invite Ros Kerr to come to the podium and speak to us about the play.
Get your mic in closer and your
Okay. So thank you very, very much, everyone, from Tamara, Nick, Domenico, for the warm welcome and kind words. I also want to thank the center and especially Tara and Andrew and Taylor, and also the Italian Studies Department, especially to Liz, beyond, of course, thanking Nick as well. Thank you so much for all the help you've given me. And also, I'd like to say a word to ITER Press itself for having been willing in the Other Voice series to let Scala speak for the women that he was representing in the play. So with that in mind, ready to go? Yes. So I would now like to welcome all the people who've come in to watch and listen, and hope that you will enjoy the presentation. And with that, I'll begin. So I'm very happy to have you at this book launch for Flaminio Scala's comic masterpiece, Il Finto Marito, published in Italy in 1618, and now in my translation, for the first time in contemporary English, in a highly accessible version suitable for both readers and would-be performers. And I'm certainly hoping it'll get some performances. I did a workshop of it in Alberta, but this is a very different text now. Although it is 400 years since Il Finto Marito was delivered to the Florentine court in the hopes of winning favor with the scornful elite, who devalued the commedia dell'arte because of its lack of literary masterpieces, my publication of The Fake Husband hopes to do similar things by showing the English-speaking public what an outstanding full script appears to be written out. So I'm delighted to have brought this unique play into the light as a follow-up to my research on the Italian actresses, which resulted in the publication of The Rise of the Diva. And there's the frontispiece to it. My intention in writing The Diva was to remind scholars of the pivotal role that female performers had played in bringing famous female characters, both fictional and historical, to life on stage, as well as creating a profession where women could distinguish themselves. One of the main resources I used to research the contribution of the early actresses was an examination of their presence in the uniquely famous collection of 50 scenarios, Il Teatro delle Favole Rappresentative, Theater of the Tales for Performance. And there's the frontispiece for the original, and also this excellent translation of 30 of them that we have now in English. That's very, very useful. So I relied heavily on this, and in fact used it for my original thesis under Domenico. And it's these 50 scenarios that, I'm gonna keep that, that Scala had decided to publish in 1611. And it is necessary now to say a few words about Scala and this collection in order to set up its relationship to The Fake Husband, the single full script which appeared in 1618. Scala was born to minor nobility. Aha, I'm getting ahead of myself. Scala was born to minor nobility, but lived mostly in the more liberal Venice, where he operated a perfume alchemical shop on the Rialto. He lived from 1552 to 1624 and won fame as an actor, scholar, scenario writer, impresario, and company director. He has been called the Italian Shakespeare because of his leading role as an author of a large body of scenarios, the special type of play scripts developed by the commedia dell'arte. He was also ahead of his time in recognizing that oral, written, and print cultures were converging and he needed to bring them together in order to keep the commedia competitive. Although thousands of scenarios were circulating in manuscript form during the 16th and 17th century, only 50 made it into printed form in Scala's unique 1611 collection, which contained 40 comic and 10 miscellaneous genre scenarios. These scenarios have been played on trestle stages and public rooms and at the courts for over several decades, and Scala believed it was important to preserve them in print to keep them alive in the memories of the Italian public who had watched them being performed. When he decided to print them, he made them more user-friendly by expanding the very brief description of the scenes and list of characters who were to develop them into a performance. To make them more accessible to a wider audience, he added an opening argument which explained the background circumstances of the play. While he made it easier to follow the plot development, he stopped short at filling in how the actors would play their parts, including what they would say. As he explained in his preface to the tales, he believed it was best to leave that task to the actors who spoke their own regional dialects with special linguistic markers that were part of their appeal as individuals. The 50 scenarios in the tales are scripts intended for actors to give them a storyline and an order for developing a sequence of scenes by improvising their encounters with each other. We see how each member of the troupe had to work as an ensemble to move the action forward. To find out more about the genius involved in on-the-spot improvisation, I recommend Domenico Pietro Paolo's recent excellent new book, Semiotics and Pragmatics of Stage Improvisation, where he does explain how they did this very unique improvisation. Although Scala had promised that he would come up with a second collection of 50 additional scenarios to follow up, to end with 100 Days in Imitation of Boccaccio, it never materialized. Instead, he chose to publish a full script to promote the Commedia dell'arte status in order to show what the finished product looked like in written form. When The Fake Husband, a comedy, was first published in 1618, Scala indicated that he believed his offering of a completed dramatic script would be considered a far more prestigious achievement. His choice to memorialize the Commedia dell'arte in a standard print form seems to have come from his decision to make its aesthetic merits more available to an educated pan-Italian audience. Scala let it out of the bag on more than one occasion that it was his fervent hope that publishing The Fake Husband would be enough to win him a court position with the Medicis in Florence. Setting so much stock on having a product which conformed to the official classical requirements for dramatic literature indicates that he saw the Commedia dell'arte needed to stay competitive in an expanding consumer market where large numbers of performers, readers were eager for scripts. Scala's awareness that the Commedia dell'arte needed to compete by capturing their performances in full script form is underscored by his admission in the prologues to The Fake Husband that it was not a new play, but simply a written out version of an earlier scenario. Sorry, I think that is coming a little too soon. That's okay. So he explained it was not a new play, but simply a written out version of one of the scenarios from the tales. He explained that he had chosen the husband, Day 9, because of his patron, Don Giovanni de' Medici, considered it to be the queen of the comedies, and hence worthy to be shared and admired by all, including the official academic and court theaters. To make it more literary, Scala changed all the names of the well-known commedia actors, mostly from the Gelosi troupe, who had made their roles famous, though they are still somewhat recognizable. In fact, it is possible to link the actresses from the scenarios to the characters in the full script. Behind Licinio, Brigida, the fake husband, was the famous maidservant Silvia Roncalli. And I've got her there marked. Can everybody see? Okay. And Silvia Roncalli, and behind the prima donna, Porzia, was Isabella Andreini. Tightly plotted and fast moving, this is a comedy full of trickery, cruelty, revenge, transvestite disguise, bed trick. Characters find themselves in unexpected and in some places unwanted couplings, and finally, happy endings. A showpiece in the commedia repertoire, it appeared in scenario collections well into the 17th century. Its outstanding features, or the fake husband's outstanding features, unusual even in a sexually transgressive commedia dell'arte, was the legendary tale on which it was based. The clandestine, verboten lesbian marriage between the faithful maidservant Brigida, who takes on a male identity as the gentleman suitor Licinio, and convinces everyone that she is a suitable husband for her young mistress Porzia. Once married, Licinio turns out to be so violently jealous that Porzia is never seen again, even at her window. Although we don't find out what's really going on until the end of the play, when everything is revealed, Licinio's reasons for pulling off such a brilliant scam are all done to save Porzia from being forced into an unwanted marriage after being separated from the young man of her choice. This young lover, Lepido, has been sent into exile by his cruel father to stop him from marrying Porzia, who lacked a sufficient dowry. Played out with such preposterous and highly illegal deception requires the utmost audacity in the characters taking the part as they test out how successful the female power couple can be in maintaining the stage illusion. The action, played out in real time, features the return of the banished lover Lepido, whose one desire is to speak to his lost bride. Enlisting the help of the wily servant Scaramuccia, Lepido makes repeated attempts to gain access to Porzia. By giving Scaramuccia such a prominent role as both lead actor and company director, Scala also showcased the consummate skill of the servant Zannies in representing the rebellious servant class who are always able to overthrow their oppressive masters with their witty if cruel intrigues, at least on the stage. In a parallel plot, Scaramuccia is also in charge of overthrowing the lustful greed of the two old patriarchs as they attempt to gain access to the young gentlewoman Julia by trapping her into a forced marriage against her will. Scala spares no details in revealing that both old men are driven by blind lust, vanity, and greed, as Demetrio intends to gain the means to assault her freely by marrying her to his poorer sidekick, Gervasio. As much as the vecchi, or two old men, are revealed to be criminal in their intent, Scala shows the exceptional portrayal of these characters by the actors who had made them famous as models of Pantalone, that's Demetrio, and Dottore Gervasio, as an expose of the common misogynistic practices of taking advantage of women in their inferior position. Scala has Scaramuccia formulate a diabolically clever series of bed tricks to get the right couples in bed with each other and at the same time punish the dirty old men. He tricks the two old men into believing they're each getting a chance to sleep with the young Moor Julia by using the maidservant Ruchetta and a manservant Trappola as decoys dressed in her clothing to spend the night with Gervasio and Demetrio, respectively. This exceedingly precarious plan depends on maintaining vows of silence and other nonverbal sounds to make their assignations. As Scala shows how brilliant the commedia dell'arte actors were in improvising this chain of infinite deceptions in the dark, he then throws all Scaramuccia's clever tricks into question by having him called by Porzia to submit to the very same transvestite trick he is putting the servants through. In a tour de force scene, she bends him to her will by forcing him to dress up as a woman and spend the night in bed with Licinio so that she can enjoy Lepido without fear of getting caught. If we have to admire Scaramuccia's utter brilliance in arranging with all the characters how not to get caught running around in the dark, guided by strange noises and signals, we are not entirely surprised when he falls victim to his plans, and like a good director, has to submit to the requirements of the plot to keep everything from blowing up in his face. Before turning this talk over to our cast, who will show you some scenes from various parts of the play, I want to conclude by mentioning that beyond all the laughs we get at watching human follies of all kinds, we can identify targets where Scala wanted to show whose side the commedia was on. By paying the great tribute to the actresses as playing instrumental roles in overthrowing their male oppressors and calling them out on their actions, Scala gave a nod both to the importance of the actresses to the success of the companies, but also to the need for social justice and gender equality. Elsewhere, I have read this play as an earlier example of a Me Too movement. Aha. I'm going to go down and show you the Me Too picture. As an earlier example of a Me Too movement, because representing how women are so badly treated and how they can fight back in society and on stage. And because the women are doing the talking, they get to tell you all about it. The Fake Husband also encapsulated the great contribution made by the Commedia dell'arte to the creation of a new performance-based type of theater dependent on the actors working closely as an ensemble to improvise on the spot, and in so doing, capture the living, breathing power of the theater to imitate real life for both pleasure and instruction. So let's now turn to the scenes the actors will read, remembering how hard it is to act commedia from the waist up. The scenes you will see are, first, Jeff Gagnon playing a scene from the second prologue. Scene 2, Scaramuccia visiting Licinio and the imprisoned Portia, and that has Trevor Martin, who's Scaramuccia, Dale Boyer, who's Licinio, and Jenny Salisbury as Portia, and that's from Act 2, Scene 1. Then the scene where Portia outmaneuvers Scaramuccia, and that's Jenny Salisbury and Trevor Martin. That's from Act 4, Scene 6. And then a small scene of Trappola acting as if he's a woman, and that's Jeff Gagnon and Trevor Martin. And then a scene in which Licinio reveals all, that's Dale Boyer. And finally, Scaramuccia speaking the prologue. So I now pass it over to our pre-recorded scenes. Thank you.
They say comedies are bad, not deserving of praise for those who make them, that they disgrace those who take an interest in them, and dishonor those who act in them, and even more for those who listen to them, because enjoying something that corrupts our customs and morals is a vice and a defect. Plus, the wasted time that can never be regained automatically condemns those who consume them as evil from the outset. Moreover, it is said that in ancient times, the great republics did not permit actors among them, and everywhere the art was in such disrepute that those who practiced it were not given honor. Well, I want to tell my side of the story on my behalf, and also my fellow actors, because I don't want people to believe that by not responding to this slander, I agree with it. I know too that Sulla, a wise and respected man, loved the actor Roscius so much that he put him on a par with Cicero. And the very same Roscius also wrote a treatise equating the comic art with rhetoric. If what they say has any value, it also means that medicine, which teaches how to make poisons in order to find antidotes, should be fled from. Doctors were also thrown out of the Roman Republic, but were later brought back with great honor because they were needed. And even if the Republic of Marseille did not want comedies, Rome, the rest of Italy, and the whole of Greece always kept and welcomed actors for their contribution to the well-being of the state. Evidence that if they had been thrown out, it would have taken 1,000 years to reverse the damage, since comedy is necessary for the entertainment and education of the people. No, sir, no. This is a middlebrow art form, and like all human things, subject to inconsistencies and contradictions, and not blame nor praiseworthy by itself, but valuable for the actions that it leads others to follow after watching it. Thus, those who learn their lessons, or those who use it to act abusively or for profit deserve to be praised or blamed accordingly. Indeed, since the goal of comedy is to teach by example, it cannot be blamed for those who use it for wrong ends. Comedy does what it's supposed to. The well-behaved man understands the good examples from seeing the bad ones and doesn't choose to follow the bad ones, and comedy provides the vehicle. Such a man has the same honor that a person receives when he helps others by taking on their failings to show them friendship. Not so different from a servant getting dust all over himself from sweeping it off his master. But even if I concede that the art is not honorable, you will no doubt deny me that it bestows sufficient honor on those who practice it so that for the communal good, which you must concede to me that comedy brings, actors are happy to submit to having their actions judged by anyone who cares to, whether to consider them to have some worth or to condemn them out of hand. And since they are intended to teach or reveal matters suitable for instruction, they don't care about the disapproval or injury that these things might cause to their honor. All right then, I'll do you a good by showing you a meaningful example. Take a seat. I was supposed to do the prologue, but since I see my fellow actors are ready to perform, I'll beg them to let me say a few words to avoid further annoyance. Gentlemen, I offer you this capricious comedy that should keep you in greater suspense than is usual, since I have not been told the prologue, where the story is explained. Instead, accept this unexpected encounter in its place, because I am about to announce the start of The Fake Husband by Flaminio Scala, a comedy entirely written by him, even if not new. And now I will let my fellow actors put on the play.
I'd rather be trying to keep check on a dozen wild stallions in a pack of mares than reining in a young man in love, or to put it more clearly, rearing to go, huh? I've talked to him for 3 hours, but nothing has changed. He's possessed, I'm sure, because anyone with sense would listen to reason, but he's as willing to be reasonable as I am to starve myself, and he's resolved that he's going to speak to Portia or kill himself. Speak to a young lady only 6 months married, and moreover, who is she married to? Only to the most jealous husband ever seen in the city, as rumor has it, a tiny brain and a pair of hands like the devil, and never leaves her side. What the hell have I got myself into? Lepido says she used to love me, but that's past tense. You've got to see how she feels in the present. In the good old days when she didn't know what she knows now. You brought joy to her eyes, to her ears, to her mouth. But what about the other mouth? She's now discovered down below, that one that gets bigger without feeding it. We've got trouble. I tell you, real trouble. I promised to help him, and if it kills me, I have to do it. Come on, Scaramuccia. Smarten up. Show some courage, huh? Master Gervasio is not home. Well, what'll I do? I'll knock anyway, and I'll know who it is from their voice. Knock, 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 knock.
Who's down below? Who's knocking?
Ooh, bad beginning. This is the voice of the husband. I'll knock again, whatever, what happens. Knock, 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 knock.
May your hands and tongue shrivel and fall off. Can you knock more softly and answer the first time? Who's knocking, I say?
And may your blood dry up in your veins. Oh no, the Chinio is going to appear when the door opens. I'm going to hide here since I don't want to be seen.
Hello? Who is it? Who's knocking at my door? I don't see anyone. Portia, come down.
I'm coming, my lord.
I don't doubt that there are those who want to do me harm in this city. I don't know what kind of mischief they do to the houses of gentlemen. I'm sure that this must be some kind of knavish ruffian.
Well, he's got good judgment. He knew me from my knock.
I'm here, sir. What do you want me to do?
Did you hear someone knock at the door?
No, sir. When?
Just now? And were you hiding in the cellar? Don't be surprised by the way I'm talking. We're being watched and heard. Where the devil were you hiding?
I was on the veranda hanging out your collars.
Haven't I told you not to go to the veranda where you can be seen and heard from the Piazza Portia? Portia, this desire to have your own way, you're not wanting to pay attention to what I say is going to lead to a time when I am permanently displeased by you. Then you won't have a husband anymore, but a big devil who will torment you endlessly.
If you are the devil, go back to hell then, since you can never conquer your wife, if the novella is telling the truth.
My dear husband, please forgive me. You're always complaining about my shortcomings.
I always have reason to grumble when you do not do what I ask. I'm telling you once again that when I am not home, you must never answer the door to any living person.
Well, then she'll go to the window.
Neither show yourself at the window.
She'll go to the balcony overlooking the garden.
And take care of that temptation that doesn't lead you to go to the balcony that overlooks the garden.
And what will he say about her answering the call of nature?
And should it be necessary, I'll have a key made to the door of the bathroom.
By God, I hit the nail on the head. May you be circumcised like a Jew.
I have very little to throw away. But go into the house, as I want to go to the market. And when Mr. Gervasio gets home, tell him I want to dine early.
Of course. Do you want anything else?
Nothing else. Do what you've been told. Now go inside because I want to leave.
Yeah, go away, the way my father did, and never come back.
Oh, heavens. I thank you so much for giving me a husband who you see loves me to perfection and looks out for my honor. I would be deserving of whatever severe punishment he wished if I had the slightest intention of doing him any wrong, if that ever came into my head. Oh, my dear husband, if only you knew how much love I have for you, you wouldn't be so jealous of me.
Good God, it seems to me that I've already got evidence of the opposite without a fight. Now go, Lepido, and trust in those words. He used to love me. At least you heard these 4 words spoken. Hey, for his sake, I want to talk to him and let him know his fortune. And then let her do what she wants. Greetings, Lady Portia.
I am a woman, Scaramuccia, and women don't know how to act differently. Now that I see the necessity, I want to act wisely as a smart woman would. I see no other way to fulfill these desires of ours but to have you hear my plan, which, without your help and risk-taking, can't happen.
By all means, spell out what I have to do, because I'm not afraid to take risks, and I'm ready to serve.
What are you willing to do?
What? Oh, for Lepido. Oh, I'm ready to die. Go on, tell me about it.
All right, then, listen. I want you at 2 hours after nightfall, or even later, to bring Lepido to my house. Make some sign to let me know it's you, so once I've heard, I'll come very quickly to open the door and let Lepido in and lead him to the apartment near the garden where he'll wait for me to arrive.
Excellent. I like it. I know that smart women make sons.
I'll go to bed with my husband, and when he's deeply asleep, I'll get up and go find my Lepido.
Great, brilliant. It couldn't be better.
And if my husband, at that very moment, as he often does when sleeping, by chance reaches out an arm or a leg to touch me and doesn't find me, I've thought of a way that I can be safe.
Oh, excellent, excellent. This will be the icing on the cake. How will you do it?
Listen, I've thought about it, and you're the only one who can make all of this work.
Well, tell me about it, please, because I still don't see what I have to do, and I want, above all, to help you too with all my heart.
Without your help, we can't do anything. But let's get to the problem that I told you about. When Lepido comes into the house, I want you to come with him and wait in the room with him until I arrive. I'll be there as soon as my husband drops off to sleep. And when I get to the room where you are, I want you to strip to your nightshirt, put on a lady's cap on your head, and follow me. I'll take you to my bedroom and put you in bed with my husband.
What the hell? in bed with your husband?
Yes, in bed with my husband. Then as he dozes, he'll believe for sure that you're his wife, And so I'll have a clear field and can stay with my Lepido for the whole night. What's up? You're scratching your head.
It's a good plan, a nice plan, but it's a bit dangerous. No, it's not. It's very dangerous. Let's see. Okay, I strip to my nightshirt. I put on my lady's nightcap on my head, and then I bed down for the whole night with your husband. You're not going to make me do this sort of homework. I never learned this sort of conjugation from my Latin teachers. Portia, are you joking, or is this real?
You'll see if I'm joking. If you aren't prepared to do what I've said, all our efforts are useless. We've been building sandcastles in the air or sowing our seeds in a dry land. There's no point in thinking about it anymore. Are you listening, Scaramuccia?
Just hang on for a bit. You, my lady, have had all the time in the world to think it over. You're the one that's going to enjoy yourself, and to talk you into it took 1,000 persuasions. I'm the one who's getting the short end of the stick, so just give me a chance to think it over. All right, now I climbed into bed. All right, Licinio hears me and reaches out his hand, and I poke up my head. Ooh, his hand starts to move lower down. I turn my back. He thinks he's touching my breast. Uh-oh, it's too big for a breast.
You're worrying too much about the details.
Yeah, it's okay for you to talk, but I'm the one who's up against it, huh?
Well then, it's off.
No, just wait a moment. Okay, he reaches out his hand again, looking for the rose, and he finds, oh, a thorn. Yeah, he shouts, he raises the cry, and it's daggers at dawn. No, forget it, my lady. I don't see a solution.
Well, you can go to the devil then.
No, hold on. If you please, I lie. Right, I lie on my side, and then with my back to him, and he comes looking for my breasts and finds my shoulders. Yeah, he tries again, and he finds my hairy chest. Okay, and he goes lower, and he finds something he can grab onto. It's bad news one way and worse the other. Forget it. There's no way out. I'm sorry.
Well, even if it did happen like that, so what? If it were me, I wouldn't be so scared.
Well, of course, it'd be no problem for you. You young ladies have a way of wriggling out of tiny corners, with arguments that would convince the whole city, let alone just one man. But someone like me, that hasn't got your extra parts and has one part that, you haven't got. Qual pare est. It's well, joking aside, but what if your husband is tempted by lustful desires, half drunk with sleep, and in a frenzy wants to take it out on me? My lady, old things break easily. If he found out that I was a man like him and got his hands on the bed warmer's handle, then what should I do? What should I be supposed to do then? What would you do if you were me, Lady Portia?
Thinking about the problem stops you from doing anything. And in the thick of things, it's not a problem. And you end up doing things you wouldn't expect.
Lady Portia, you certainly have a way with words, but I'm the one that's risking my life here, and I can just see myself hung, drawn, quartered, and slaughtered like a pig.
Look, don't worry. Once my husband drops off to sleep, he sleeps right through till morning. And anyway, he never touches me apart from once a month.
When's the start of the month?
Just started, and he's already had his share. So that's it for this month.
Well, if it's like that, it should be okay.
Don't worry. It's a certainty.
Oh, sure, a certainty. Taking the place of a woman climbing in bed beside your husband in your nightshirt and not being scared. To tell you the truth, that's a bit hard to believe. But hang on, excuse me a minute. Wouldn't it be better if Lepido stripped to his nightshirt and came to your bedroom and hopped into bed on your side, so you're in the middle, right? And then if your husband suddenly got tempted, you could fix him up, and once he's gone off to sleep, you could work the other side of the mattress without making a sound, right?
Lover's passion is worthless in the dark. I want to be able to look and gaze upon my Lepido, and for him to be able to see the face and breasts of his beloved lady. I want our lovemaking to be without care, and for any inconvenience to be borne by others, not me. So look here, Scaramuccia. If you aren't prepared to go and lie beside my husband, the whole plan goes up in smoke. And I must say, I'm losing patience with all the objections you're raising.
Just hang on a second.
I'm not going anywhere.
Curse the day I got into this scheme. The devil's found a great way to finish me off. But couldn't we find a woman of easy virtue to put in the bed with him and pay her for her services?
Sure. With the whole of Rome talking of our affairs.
You're right, but wouldn't there be some way of getting your husband to stay out for the night and to sleep somewhere else?
My husband sleeps somewhere else? If only he would. There's no chance. He's so jealous of me, he'd never do. Look, you can think it over as much as you like, but there's only one solution, and it's this. You go and get in bed with my husband for 5 or 6 hours. There's no other choice.
Wait a minute. What if we tried something else? We put Lepido with your husband, and you come and sleep with me. Oh, Scaramucci, no, don't be an idiot. I'm sorry. I'm so scared. I'm saying things, stupid things.
As Ramonte said to Orlando, this bridge is for gentlemen and knights to pass, not for you, foul beasts.
Yeah, I guessed as much. I was only joking with your ladyship. Well, then, it's decided. You go inside now, and I'll come at the appointed time with Lepido. We'll make the sign, come into the house. I'll strip to my nightshirt, put the bonnet on my head, and I'll go and lie down beside your husband. So you'll have all the time to shoot as many loving arrows as you want, so that you'll be satisfied. Is that good enough? What do you say? Anything else you need?
Oh, my dear Scaramuccia, what else is there for me to ask? Then go and find Lepido and give him my love and fill him in on everything.
Oh, this much I'll do, your ladyship's servant. Hey, poor Scaramuccia. I see clearly that taking care of others puts you on a slippery slope. Heaven help me.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Scaramuccia. Don't worry.
No, don't worry. Be happy. The danger is great. But I don't see any other remedy. I'm resolved to help the young ones and do what's wanted, whatever that is. But what won't a heart do under the spell of that traitor and tyrant love? He's taught Portia to cuckold her husband in such a cunning way. Go on, go, take a wife then. What idiot would take her back? But I want to find Lepido before it's dark and get away from this mess. You're all set, and it's almost 2 hours after dark. Stand away from each other, Sir Lepido and Sir Flavio. Let me set up the decoy so that the birds will fall when it's time.
It's 2 hours after dark, and here I am, just as Scaramuccia ordered, dressed as a woman, and I have 2 nice big rocks in my hands for the signal I'm supposed to send. And I could use them to crack anyone's head who gets in my way. I'll just creep slowly to the door. Love, the things you make lovers do. Who knows how many lovers are out and about now disguised as porters or maidservants or peddlers, and how many women are waiting for their lovers, and how many cuckolds are there sleeping comfortably, and how many others are making it easy for their wives to crown them the king of cuckolds. Oh, I could be next. But anyway, let's give the signal. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 tap.
If I'm not deceived, this one, according to the signal, is Trappola, dressed as a woman. By God, it is. Shh, Trappola. Don't you know me? It's Scaramuccia.
Oh, what Trappola? I'm the girl from Piazza Frying Pan who wants to make some money. So leave me alone and mind your business.
Hey, you rascal, a girl from Piazza Frying Pan, eh? Trappola, don't you recognize me, you filthy beast?
Watch out. I will call my pimp on you and he'll break your arm, scoundrel. Go to hell.
This animal here is pretending to be a woman and doesn't recognize my voice, Trappola. Who am I talking to? Is it possible, idiot, that you don't know who my voice is in the dark?
Oh, it's it's you, Scaramucci.
Yes, it's me. You're a real pain in the ass.
Forgive me, brother, for not recognizing you. I'm dressed as a woman, like this, the best that I know how, and I've put on some of my Mistress Portia's old clothes, and now I can't think of anything but getting out of here and spending the night with my Ruchetta.
That'll do. Go and hide in there for a bit, and don't come out before I can come to get you.
Okay, see, I'm hiding now.
Yeah, that'll work. Stay in there for a bit and don't come out until I can find you. Ugh. Now I'm going to whistle 3 times under my master's window so that he can come as promised to take the untamed Julia into his house. Hey.
Seeing that the poor girl was in such trouble, I felt sorry for her and encouraged her to endure everything with patience and forbearance. And after a while, I left Master Demetrio's house and went to a relative skilled in making potions, who gave me a sleeping powder that made me appear to be dead. And so you all thought I was, and duly mourned and buried me. I was buried, then a few hours later, taken out of the tomb by my relative who gave me the remedy and restored me to my original self. Afterwards, recovering at his house, I shared my plan with him and got my men's clothing from him. I had brought large sums of money and jewels taken from your house with ease, Master Demetrio, since your mother, Lepido, had put them in my care, as you well know. Thus, I prepared to do what I had decided, and so, following the plan, I went to Florence, loaded with money at your expense. And wanting to create a younger look and to resemble a man as much as possible, I stayed there for some time and did everything I could to change myself, so that I wouldn't be recognized as a woman. And then, as a man, I returned to Rome. Then I sent an envoy with information about how much I was worth to ask Master Gervasio for Lady Portia's hand. After courting her for some weeks, I offered to take her despite her very small dowry and promised to give her one myself. I succeeded with the greatest of ease because Master Gervasio, driven by greed, accepted my terms immediately and promised her to me without fail. The master here saw me and was pleased that I was rich and alone in the world, as I have always said. So he took me into the house and accepted me as a son and dearest son-in-law. We had a wedding ceremony, which was splendid, thanks to my lavish spending. And then we went to bed as a married couple, and only the poor Portia suffered for it. I say this because instead of suffering that night, she remained a virgin and pure. But the happiness of having succeeded so well with our plan was sufficient enough that we enjoyed ourselves anyway. And the caresses that she gave to me, she herself can tell you, as she is here. Yeah. And then we followed our plan to wait for the desired return of Sir Lepido, since Lady Portia was never anyone but his. Finally, once we knew that he had returned because of his passionate love for her, we decided to relieve ourselves of our heavy burden of not being able to satisfy our natural desires. Once Lady Portia was assured of Sir Lepido's love, which she had greatly mistrusted, and on finding him steadfast and constant, she decided that Lepido could sleep with her as her husband, but without knowing the truth, and Scaramuccia would go to bed with me, thinking I was Lucinio, her husband. All of this was done to keep a promise between Lady Portia and Sir Lepido. What do you say now, gentlemen?
Ladies and gentlemen, as you see, the punishment comes to rest on me alone, since I thought I was free from the impediment of having a wife, and now I have to take her back. But happy people enjoy themselves, and therefore I want to follow their good example and accept what heaven sends without complaint. If there are those among you, ladies and gentlemen, who want to come to the weddings, you'll have to wait until tomorrow because it's too late now. However, I thank you in the name of us all for being such a wonderful audience, and I wish you well. Godspeed.
So,
So here's a question for you, Rose. Is there anything?
a question?
Yep.
So they want it typed?
They can hear you right now. So no, just go to answer the question. So,
Answer?
well, what you do is read the question. People are listening and watching right now. So read the question and then just click answer live when you're ready to answer it.
Click answer live?
Yep.
Yes?
So you should read the question so that they know what's being asked.
I read the question?
Yeah, just read it out so that they know that.
Is there anything in the printed script to indicate where Lazio occurred? That is, do you think the script is supposed to represent a stage performance, or did Scala consider it a literary project? Thanks for the lecture and performances. Scala absolutely considered it to be, if you like, a performance text, so that he was transcribing he transcribed dialogue for the characters that would, of course, be more uniform, but it was very much intended to be live. And when you're following it closely, you can see them sort of inventing it as they go along. So the Lazzi are totally there. I was trying to think, a lot of Lazzi occur when they go to in almost every one of the scenes that we showed you. There are certain Lazzis that get played out. That one about Scaramuccia listening and commenting on all the places where Portia should be hidden, that kind of thing. So yes, does that help? If I do done?
Yep.
So more questions? Answer live?
Yep.
The text is wonderfully performable as the cast demonstrated. Congratulations all around. Can I say something about the process of translation? Did you have actors read it periodically? Well, I did do a workshop production of it in when I was in Alberta as part of a course. But at that point, I hadn't got the translation as far as it needed to be. So actually, one of the cast members who played Scaramuccia also was a playwright, and he actually sort of messed around with a version of it to make it easy for the players. But I think basically the translation took just ages and ages to try to get the rhythm and the sound of how they would do it. So it was partly getting help from some readings, but all me just living with it forever. Yes, okay, yes. So another question, congratulations and help from Boston, and hello from Boston. What did you learn about the conventions of prologues in the early 17th century Italian plays from translating this prologue? Answer live. Okay, to be dead honest, I didn't really go back and find out a lot more about prologues. That Scala was trying to imitate Terence, I think, when he did it, and he was playing around with the idea that he had to have two prologues, pretending that one was for acting and one was for reading, which is of course a joke because they would both be being read. And so in some ways he's trying to make it literary, because those prologues are his theory of the commedia as well too. If you study them closely, he also made them into little plays, and they're not solo the way ours appeared to be. They have they actually are an actor being queried by a terrible snob who hates everything he's doing. So I hope that helps. Okay. All right, here's another question here. That was wonderful. How did the act of translation change how you envisaged the performance of the play? Was it different when you imagined it in Italian compared to English? Answered live, very good question here. It absolutely changed the way I saw the play being performed, or the way that it would be performed, because it was so much more fleshed out. When you're reading the scenario, you have to imagine all sorts of things that are very hard to access, whereas when he wrote it out, you saw how the tricks were going to be played because he spelled it out. For example, when the character Lepido gets to finally meet Portia, they're exchanging, you know, how dare you betray me? And she falls into a dead faint, and they then play it for about 10 or 15 minutes that she's being held up by Scaramuccia as she falls over, and the missing lover is going on and on about her. Well, her dead body, is appearing there. So it was easier to follow it when you had the whole script. I hope that helps. Okay, so we have another question here. Saluti da Firenze. Wonderful presentation. Grazie mille e bravissime. To the actors who proved the excellence of your translation. And so he goes on to say, I'd like to ask if you worked with masks, and specifically Dottore Pantalone, Arlecchino, and et al. Kinetics in the workshops you've done before, and to what extent might your Licinio Brigida have done gender parity moments in a full live stage performance? Interesting and complicated question. All right. It's been a long time since I have worked with masks, and these wonderful actors that came in to do the readings for this particular thing were drawing on their experience as improvisers, I think, for the most part. The Licinio Brigida, we'd have to ask her, has she already done gender parity? And they're not here because we pre-recorded them. But I think she says she's often, I think, been asked to play transvestite roles. So what might, I don't know. I can't really answer that any better, but I hope that you're going to play on someday. Because this is another fellow actor, Eric, who's going to play Scaramuccia, I think. Thank you for your question. I hope that helps. Okay, any more questions? No more? Well, thanks. Okay. You're very welcome. No more questions? Anybody?
Click done on the thing.
Click done? Okay. Okay.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you.
What a fantastic evening, Rose. Thank you so very much. That was absolutely delightful, every single part of it. Indeed, when someone asked whether you will be putting it on, we already had a little chat before this event started, and I do so hope that the Drama Center may indeed be a host of this production once we are back in our physical space. It would be absolutely delightful to see it on stage, you know, with all the physicality of it that can add so much to the delightfulness of this, you know, beautifully transgressive text, and the humor that I just suddenly realized we all need so much right now and at every other moment. With this, I would like to bring this evening to a close, and by thanking once again Ros, you for this wonderfully amazing work, for this delightful text, for agreeing also to launch it in this virtual format. We were planning, of course, to do it, you know, in person a little bit earlier, but then we all know what happened. So absolutely no possibilities to follow up on that plan. Thank you for accepting the alternative plan. I wanted also to thank very much the Department of Italian Studies for being such a generous co-host, co-organizer of this event. I must also say that it was a particular pleasure to see Domenico at this event. I am delighted for two reasons, among many others, but two most of all is this brings this very unique characteristic of academic life into the fore, into the light, that indeed a supervisor and a supervisee can meet so many years later and still celebrate the work that started so, you know, a few decades prior. This is a beautiful testimony to the fact that we are developing relationships for life. And I think this is something I really wanted to highlight at this new alumni speaker series. This is really what distinguishes academia, I think, from many other you know, fields of human activity. It also pertains to theater. Some of these relationships are developed for life, and they need to be cherished and developed and maintained. So thank you for that. But also, Domenico, it's wonderful to welcome a former director of the center in you as well. Nick, thank you for being here, for being such a generous and wonderful co-host of this event. And of course, I wanted to thank our team, irreplaceable team, Tara, Ariel, Andrew, and many others who have been you know, hidden, just like our audience, but they were also at work during this event. And of course, to thank all our guests who joined us, hopefully enjoyed this wonderful event. And we do hope to see you at other events. Please keep checking our website, beautifully maintained by Tara, with all the whole calendar of events. So please reconnect. I also could see some other alumni among our guests. Welcome all of you back to the center. Please join us at other events that we have planned. Thank you all very much. And of course, big thanks to the actors. Big round of applause to fantastic people who brought the text to life. So thank you again all very much. It's so awkward to be saying goodbye, seeing only us here. So I'm waving to everybody else. See you all back at another occasion. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much. Yes.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So are we all gone?
I think so. Bye-bye.
Okay.
People are leaving right now.
Thanks, everyone. No, I still have to. Oh.